Will it be easier for you if I wasn't so fast? Will it be simpler if I stopped winning?
Caster Semenya was born to run, and it made her a star. A Nike commercial, 2 Olympic gold medals. But now she's famous for something else, not winning, but losing a landmark legal battle that determined she's not woman enough to compete.
Semenya on her way to her 30th victory here, 1:54.99. It's just outside the time of Paris last year, but it's very, very quick indeed. They say that actions are much better than words, and I think Caster Semenya exemplifies that perfectly.
This past week, Semenya won a race that could be her very last, unless she agrees to new rules that would force her to take drugs to reduce her naturally high testosterone levels. Kind of like doping, but in reverse. And she's not alone. The runner who came in second, just right behind Semenya there, went public this week, revealing that she too was affected by hyperandrogenism. So Semenya, she's facing a ban by the sporting world's highest court because they argue too much testosterone gives her an unfair advantage. The debate over women's bodies in sports has a really long history. Back in 1936, at the Berlin Olympics, runners Stella Walsh and Helen Stevens were accused of being men disguised as women. Stevens was subjected to the first gender inspection. She passed. Then, during the 1940s, female athletes had to bring femininity certificates from doctors to prove that they were women. Different forms of sex testing have been in place pretty much since then. In 2006, Santi Sandarajan faced a gender test the day after she won a high-profile race in Doha, Qatar. And when media reported that she failed that test, she attempted suicide. A few years later, in 2011, the test for what makes you a woman was changed to now focus on testosterone levels. And then in 2016, when Indian sprinter Dutee Chand, she won 2 gold medals and authorities demanded that she be tested. She failed because she was deemed not woman enough. Joining me now is Carlos Sayao. He was Dutee Chand's lawyer and is now representing Caster Semenya. So, Carlos, do women like Caster Semenya with high testosterone levels, do they have an unfair advantage?
Wendy, we say they don't. We see elevated natural testosterone as being one genetic variation that's among all kinds of genetic variations that different athletes have, which make them great. So it's no different than an athlete who may have more fast twitch muscles, a sprinter, that makes them excellent, or a long distance skier who has high carrying capacity of oxygen in their lungs.
Or Michael Phelps with a really long wingspan.
Exactly. So, usually these genetic conditions, variations are celebrated in sports, and we think that high natural testosterone is just one of those variations that should also be celebrated.
There's been such a long history of women being banned on suspicion that they're too mannish or whatever. What was Caster Semenya's reaction when she heard about this ban?
It has been very difficult. It's been, frankly, a very difficult decade for Caster, having to deal with this issue. But she's gotten stronger over the past decade, and she's going to continue to be an inspiration.
You represented Dutee Chand as well, reading about her court case. I mean, it was so invasive, the tests that she went through, and she had no idea what she was being tested for. Can you, it's so intimate, but can you give us an idea of just how invasive that was? Yeah,
Dutee's case was very difficult. She was told she was having high performance tests done on her. She didn't know what was going on. She did undergo physical testing that she found quite invasive.
Because it looked at her genitalia, and they touched her, and
there's all kinds of clinical examinations that are done. And Dutee's case was done by the Indian officials in India, and then her case was just leaked to the media. She had no idea what was going on, and she woke up one day and found her picture on the front page of the news.
The tests originally, I think, were justified by saying they were looking for men who were disguised as women, but now it seems it's targeting intersex women.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And now what you have is someone who was born as a woman, reared as a woman, raised as a woman, socialized as a woman, competed in athletics her whole life as a woman, who is now being told that she can't do that anymore unless she undergoes medical treatment.
It's really complicated, though, this whole, what makes a person intersex. I mean, people might think it's just chromosomes, but it's way more than that. It's what your hormone levels are, how your body reacts with those hormones, what your genitalia, it's complicated. It's
extremely complicated. I mean, we had dozens of medical experts testifying at the Court of Arbitration for Sport on both sides. We had endocrinologists, we had gynecologists, we had geneticists, we had sports scientists, and it's very complicated. There's a whole host of different conditions that can cause elevated testosterone, and even just having the high levels of testosterone isn't the full picture, because there's different ways that testosterone acts on the body.
And, and in the cases of some women, their bodies don't, there's no effect of testosterone.
That's right. So it's almost a spectrum. You can have very high testosterone with no effect whatsoever, and then you can have, a range from 0 to 100.
So is this the beginning of almost sort of an entire rethink of what it means to be a woman in sports?
In some ways it is, yeah. It's fundamentally, I think sports governing bodies think they have to draw a line somewhere, and this is the way that they have decided to sort of police the divide.